I worked with an engineering firm recently who talk about their people, but one of the things that was really interesting is all of their engineers, almost without exception, have advanced degrees. They don't even talk to people who are just out of school. That's different.
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, it's Hard Hat CEO time, and this is Chris G. And today we're going to talk about branding and how branding can get you out of that hard hat into that CEO. And one of the ways, why is it important? It's more about sales, making your sales easier for guys and get a good brand out there. And I got a gentleman all the way from St. Louis, which is right down the road from me, and Jerry Gennaria is going to join us. He's with Toki. And welcome, Jerry. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, Chris?
I'm doing well myself. It's pretty hot over in St. Louis. I know it's hot here today.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be one of the 2 hottest days of the year today. So
Yeah.
it's like walking on the surface of the sun.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, will you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, my name's Jerry Gennaria, and I am the president and CEO of Toki. We're a branding and strategic consulting firm, as you said, Chris, based here in St. Louis. And more than 50% of the work that we do is with architects, engineers, and builders, and related industries like property development, building materials, et cetera. And we've been doing this work in the AEC space for over a decade. The firm's been in business for 27 years, and I've been with the firm for 6. I took the leadership role about 3 years ago. My background, I started as a designer, moved into strategy and brand strategy and marketing strategy. Worked for a few different agencies in St. Louis when I moved here in '98. And yeah, we've been really excited about everything that we have been able to do working with our AEC clients in particular, helping them figure out how to better communicate, who they are, what their value proposition is, what sets them apart from everyone else.
For some of my listeners, can you tell me what AEC stands for?
Yeah, AEC is architecture, engineering, and construction.
Most of our listeners are contractors. That's great.
Absolutely.
And hopefully I got some architectural engineers out there, but you never know.
Yeah.
So we talk about branding, and I say it's important. Tell me why it's important. What's so good about it?
Well, I think we have to start with what is a brand exactly. And I think for a lot of folks, they think about brand as being the logo, right? They think about it being the colors, what's on the side of the truck, what's on the hard hat. And that's, from our perspective, that's an artifact of the brand. That's a visual representation of something that's really more of an idea. When we think about brand, what we really think about is what is the experience that your clients and your employees are having, right? When we think about what makes a good brand, why do we like a company like, I don't know, like Google or Apple or Tesla or, something like that? Some of it's about the product, but a lot of it is about the experience that we have. How is it helping us solve a problem? Why does a contractor like a certain brand of tools, right? It's not because they like yellow or red or blue, the color that's on those tools. Those are just visual identifiers of the brand that they like. Helps them when they're at the store decide which one find the one that they want to purchase. But
Sure,
it's a relationship that they have with that brand. And it's a funny thing to say when we're talking about something as inanimate as a drill, but it's the experience that you have, right? And that experience is both the product itself. Does it perform? Does it hold up? But it's also the company, right? So you think about, when something goes wrong, how did they treat me? How did they take care of me? When you start to think about, the other businesses that we work with, one of the things that we hear a lot is that it's about relationships, and that's 100% right. In the construction space in particular, we're only as good as those relationships that we're building. So those relationships are really manifestations of this experience that people are having. So when we think about brand, we're thinking about the experience, that totality of the experience that somebody has with your product, with your company. But that experience is driven by a whole bunch of different things. And so we have this philosophy that we call branding from within, that's really focused on the values, the beliefs that a company has, how those are embodied in their employees, and the behaviors that those employees have, and how those are translated into the experience that people are having. So you asked the question, why is it important, right? So I
Hmm.
wanted to define it first, but when I think about why is brand important, we have to make decisions about who to work with. If you have ever been searching for something on Amazon, for example, you go on Amazon, you're looking, I don't know, let's say you're looking for a charger for your laptop.
Sure.
You can buy the one that the company that Dell makes, right? Or you can go directly to Dell to get it. But maybe you need something fast, or you don't want to spend quite as much money as Dell, and you have to make a decision about which brand or which product you're going to buy. That's where brand starts to come in, right? Because there are 7,000 Chinese knockoffs of any given product on Amazon today. So how do you decide between all these different products with impronounceable names, with nothing else to help you understand other than sort of the secondhand relationship that you have with that company through a bunch of reviews? So
Sure.
brand is where you have built up over time this understanding that, say, from thinking about chargers, Anchor has become a pretty popular brand. It started out as one of those Chinese knockoffs, but over time they build a reputation for delivering quality, for standing behind their products, for not burning down things with their chargers. And so it becomes a name that you recognize and you associate with a certain level of quality. So for businesses, construction companies, for contractors, for architects, for any kind of business like that, that experience and how that gets connected to your name, that's the brand, and that's what makes it easier to do business. It makes it easier to sell, right? So
Oh yeah.
when you're sitting across from somebody you've never worked with before, you don't have a previous relationship with them, they maybe you don't even, it's not even a referral, right? But when they have heard of you, when they know that name, or when they hear your name and go out and do some due diligence, and they start to see things that add up to a potential quality experience, they're more likely to want to work with you.
Well, branding takes time, right?
Absolutely.
Is it? I know there's no set time, but it could take a while. In your example, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
competing against, in your example, 7,000 people,
Yeah.
and you have to set yourself apart from all the other people, that you have to get that reputation going. You got to let people know about your reputation.
Yep.
That's a lot of. Is there a lot of strings to be pulled?
That there are some key strings that need to be pulled, and there is some time that's involved. And I think that I think, Chris, you have to maybe separate a little bit in your mind um, the ongoing building of a brand,
Hmm.
which I would equate to just the ongoing building of your business and the reputation of your business, and then the artifact portion of it, right? The
Okay.
things that people see, the visible portion of it, whether that's the logo, the website, the messaging, and where those things converge is in the value proposition, the differentiators that you talk about, that you want to convey. So that creation process can take some time. It could be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. It just depends on the firm and how much time you can dedicate to it, the size, how many people that you need to bring into that process. But part of what lets you separate yourself from the 7,000, you know, is there something about what you are saying that sets you apart, right?
Hmm.
90%, 98% of those other competitors are all saying the same thing. So let's bring it into this world of construction, of architecture, of engineering. We've worked with hundreds of firms, and we've interviewed or surveyed even more, and everyone says basically the same things, right? They
Sure.
say our people make the difference. They might say we deliver on time and on budget. Our construction documents are cleaner than everyone else's. Our, whatever, right? There's
But
this
true statements though, right?
100% true
Yep.
statements.
Yep.
And fundamentally very, very important, right?
Sure.
Your people do make the difference. Not disagreeing with that at all. The question that I have for them is, if that's what is true and it's what everyone else is saying, how are you different? Why
Mhm.
should I choose firm A versus firm B? And we think that that comes down to your point of view, right?
Mhm.
Your unique point of view about the industry, about the work that you do. And we have a saying here at Toki: the value is in the version. Sometimes it's how you say the same thing that everybody else is saying. So if you take this idea of having a unique point of view, right? We
Right.
believe, and you can kind of start to fill in the blanks really easily just with a simple statement of we believe. We believe that this is true, and therefore we do this differently than everybody else. We accomplish the tasks that you are hiring us to do in a different way. Maybe here's a case in point. We believe that most contractors do a terrible job at communicating with clients about change orders. Uh, and I don't know that that's true. I'm just
Right.
making this
Right.
up as I
Make
go along,
sure.
right?
Sure.
But I might say, because we believe that, we have created the zero hassle change order process. We know, Chris, that change orders are an inevitability, but we've created a no hassle process that makes sure that when you receive one, it's timely, it's fully explained, and it gives a clear process for how to say yes or say no to that change order. So that's taking a point of view and allowing it to influence how you do things. And now, when you go and you talk to somebody and you say, "Well, why should I hire your firm?" You can say, "Hey, we deliver this. We deliver the same or better quality than every other construction company out there. But we have recognized that there's a significant problem in the industry around change orders, and you may have experienced this, Mr. Potential Client, in the past. We have a way of solving that problem." And immediately you've been set apart from everybody else that they're going to talk to. They may not hire you because of that, right? They may
Sure.
decide that the company that's done 7 schools before is the one to do their school, but they're
You
not
have
going to forget the
no,
zero hassle change order policy.
and they're going to ask that person they went with, what's their changeover
The
policy?
100% right.
Yeah. So how do you eke that out of me as a contract
Yeah,
construction
so
owner?
so we call that unique point of view brand truth, because it's really getting to what is the fundamental truth about your company, about your brand, and that is a process that we do through a series of workshops, and it's really uh, it can feel a little bit like navel gazing, and we don't intend it to be, but it's and here's the challenge I think that a lot of business owners have. If you've ever read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber,
Hmm.
he talks about this idea of essentially being an accidental business owner or an accidental entrepreneur, right? You sort of woke up one day and had a entrepreneurial seizure, and the next thing you know, you are owning and running a business.
Right.
And for a lot of us, when we do that, we didn't start our businesses because we had that insight about change orders or what have you. Gosh darn it, I'm going to go and start my own construction business because nobody gets change orders right. That's not why we do it. And so when we sit down to start having this conversation, it's really easy at the beginning to overlook those things. And so, for some firms, we have to manufacture something. We have to actually talk through what are the things that you do instinctively as a firm that might be a little bit different than what everybody else does. And can we, to some extent, from a brand perspective, make a little bit of a mountain out of a molehill, right? Change orders should not be that big of a deal. Everybody should have a decent process for managing them. I'm going to venture to say that actually most contractors have a process for managing them.
Right.
Is it an amazing process? I don't know. Maybe not. But by looking at all of these different things, whether it's change orders or something completely different, we're looking for that thing that you can say, yeah, that's something I can hang my hat on. Or here's a couple of things that together form this thing that we can hang our hat on and call this our brand truth. It's all about opening doors, right? It's all about, creating something that we can do some thought leadership around, something where ultimately, you're able to be known before you have that first introduction, because that's the ultimate goal, right? When we sit down with somebody for the very first time, having it be a completely cold call is not the most exciting conversation to have. But when they already know who you are and they say, oh, that's Chris, I know Chris because I've listened to his podcast, because I've read his articles, he's all about the no change order process, and yeah, it's kind of his thing, but I know him and I know something about him, and all these other guys I don't really know anything about. And so they've already started to build a relationship with you through that thought leadership that you've based on this this kind of brand truth.
You've answered my question. I want to make sure everybody heard it. So if you're out there and you don't have some, or you think you don't have anything, or you haven't went through the steps of making sure that that's your uh, thing you want to hang your hat on, you can help them create something.
Yes,
Like it's probably something they already have,
usually.
and you're going to, man, it could be. I mean, like you say, it could be manufactured. It could
Yep.
be brand new. What would you like to hang your hat on? What could
Right.
be? And then you build something up around that and differentiate yourself that way.
Yeah.
That's a summary of kind of what you said, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect summary.
So I don't want people to think that, hey, just because you're listening to Jerry here and say, well, I don't have none of that. You don't have to have it. If you don't, that's okay,
Yeah.
because it's part of a process.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It is part of a process. It's part of thinking about ways of differentiating that are beyond the stuff that we just normally think about. Because as I said at the beginning, the challenge is that the things that are obvious, everybody says.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to find the thing that isn't obvious. We have to find. Here's a good example. If you remember the breath mint certs, if you're old enough, I don't know if they still sell them or not.
They do.
Okay. So certs, do you remember what is special about certs?
Something about the sparkly middle or something that I
Yeah,
think.
they
Yeah.
call it Retsin, Retsin. I have
Okay.
zero idea what that is. But man, they got a lot of mileage out of saying certs with Retsin. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it does, but it's supposed to make their breath mints better than everyone else's.
Yeah.
There's a famous scene, if you ever watched the TV show Mad Men, all about advertising, of course. And there's this famous scene where Don Draper, the creative director, is meeting with the team from Lucky Strikes, the cigarette company.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about, well, how can we be different than everybody else? It's a rolled up tube of tobacco that people light on fire and smoke, right? It's really fundamentally not any different than everybody else's product. And so Don has them just sort of walk through the process. How do you make this, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they talk about it from the beginning, from harvesting all the way through. And somewhere along the line, they mention the fact that they take the tobacco leaves before they're rolled up and they toast them. And Don stops them in the middle of it and he says, I'm sorry, say that again. And the guy says, we toast them. And he says, that's it. That is the thing that we're going to talk about. And the guy says, but everybody does that. That's just part of the process. He says, yes, but nobody
Nobody
else
knows.
talks about it. And so they were the first ones that were talking about their tobacco being toasted. So, it very well may be something that everybody does, but by taking and owning it and bringing that to the forefront, it gives us that thing to talk about.
Well, I want to shift gears a little bit because I'm thinking everybody's listening and saying, Jerry, well, does it have to be expensive? Is there a
No.
way?
No, it doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, so it can be something that you do yourself. You can sit down with a small group of folks that know your business really well.
Mhm.
Here's the things that we do that I think are very valuable. And most of these you can do yourself. We talk to the internal team, right? So we have
Right.
interviews with team members to understand not the business although yes, we're going to learn something about the business, but really about your culture and how you think about things and how you do things. And we ask questions that that are about why somebody is a good fit and not a good fit, right? And
Hmm.
beyond the usual stuff like they show up on time and do their job and what have you, that's all a given. But what really makes somebody your kind of people? And sometimes there's a nugget in there, right? They're extremely curious, maybe is a common denominator. So we talk to internal team members, and then we talk to clients. Right now, the
Sure.
challenge with talking to clients that I'll tell you, particularly when you are focused on this concept that we call brand truth, is that clients are not thinking about you in that way. You haven't established that thing, and so they're going to tell you a lot of the things that you've been telling everybody is what's special about your business, that the work is high quality, that
Which
you
is the same
listen,
thing that
right,
other
that you
people,
listen
yeah.
to them, that you collaborate with them, all of that. All is true, right? Just means that you have a very happy client, but you haven't helped them see a particular side of you in your business yet. But every once in a while, there is something that comes out of one of those conversations, and you can um, get to that sometimes talking to clients by asking them, after they tell you all those things that are great, um, tell me something that's different and unique about our working with us from every other firm. Right, we know that most firms that you work with, because you're a discerning client, deliver great work, and they collaborate with you and what have you, but how are we different? Or a second question that we'll ask sometimes is, why do you think that they're better at fill in the blank, delivering quality work, collaborating better, whatever those things are? Because you want to get to the things that are under the surface. We use a tool in our conversations that anybody can use. We certainly didn't invent it. We call it the toddler game, but in strategy circles, it's also known as the 5 whys or the fishbone. And it's really just asking why multiple times about the exact same thing. So when you tell me our people make the difference, I say, absolutely. Tell me why. And then I'm going to ask you that same why question about what you tell me multiple times until you start to look at me like you might take my head off. You've asked it how many times now? Because what I'm looking for is something much deeper, right? Let's
Yes.
take the Navy SEALs, for example. Everybody knows that the Navy SEALs have extraordinary people, right?
Yep.
How do they get those people? And you can start to unpack that and realize, well, first of all, they draw from the greatest military in the world, right? And they're looking for the best performers in that, and then they bring those people together into a crucible, a training crucible over a series of weeks, where they put them through unimaginable, training
Hell.
and just hell, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it's those that survive that, and then who are able to go through a level of elite training that become Navy SEALs. And then from that, we have the famous SEAL Team 6 that is the elite of them,
Hmm.
right? So I can explain why the Navy SEALs are better than everyone else, because it's about the specifics of their training and their selection process and who they're drawing from. And if we're going to talk about our people, we ought to be able to do the same thing. It can't just be, well, we hire really great people. Yeah, but tell me more about that, right? I worked with an engineering firm recently who talk about their people, but one of the things that was really interesting is all of their engineers, almost without exception, have advanced degrees. They don't even talk to people who are just out of school. That's different, right? That's
Hmm.
unique about how they organize. Is that different than every engineering firm? Probably not. But when you're talking about why are these people going to be worth the money that you're spending and be able to deliver this higher level of
It's,
thinking, that's a proof point to that.
it's a justification
It's a
of.
justification. Yeah, yeah. So though, so talk to your own team, talk to your clients,
Hmm.
and use tools like the 5 whys. We call it the toddler game because anybody who has kids knows that they're going to continue to ask you why until they exhaust you. And we want you to ask why until you're exhausted, and take all of that and pull it together and say, what is in here? And then here's the third thing. And this is really in many ways the value that that we provide, or any other outside consultant provides, and that's objectivity. Right? We like to say that it's very difficult to read the label of the jar from inside the jar. So whether it's a firm like us, or it's literally finding somebody in a peer group that you might be a part of, or somebody in some other organization that you're involved with, who's thinking that you respect, and who you know is going to be willing to poke holes in everything that you're saying, bring them in as that objective voice. Right? Does this make sense? Does this really sound different? It helps if they have a lot of background in the space, right? One of the things
Sure.
that we tell our clients, why do you hire someone that's done this for, over 100 firms in the last few years? It's because we've heard everything, and we have done the research, and we're here to tell you that what you're saying isn't unique yet. So let's keep pushing. But that's, I think, what that outside objective voice can do, is really help you find the things that you've been overlooking. So those are my suggestions. It doesn't have to be expensive to get to that. You can do a lot of that work yourself. Um, and then, we started this conversation talking about brand, and we focused a lot on the message, which I think is in many ways the most important thing. But the second part of brand is the visible assets of it. What does it look like, right?
Hmm.
We are conditioned as people to make snap judgments based on the things that we see. It's part of how you function as a human being, right? When we're at an intersection and we have to decide whether or not to go through the intersection, we're taking in a whole bunch of visual information to help us make that decision very quickly. Do I think that car that's coming, even though they have a red light, is going to stop? Do I have a red light, or do I have a yellow light, right? So we take in a lot of visuals to help us make those decisions. And we do the same thing when we're deciding about making a purchase or what firm to work with. There's just certain things about the visual brand and the quality of that brand that helps us decide whether or not the company behind it is any good, right? We've all seen handyman signs on little yard sale signs on
Sure.
corners somewhere. Hire me. We immediately get a mental image of what we're going to be hiring based on that sign, right? Or based
Yes.
on a truck that has just 7,000 words and bullet points and stuff all over it, the laundry list of all the things that they do. You look at that and you say, oh, well, they're pretty small scale, right? Big companies don't need to give you a laundry list of everything that they do on the side of the truck. They just put their name on the side of the truck. Maybe they put a slogan. Maybe they just say, construction and restoration, or whatever it is that they do at a high level. So there's things about that look and feel that communicate quality quickly. Now, if the brand doesn't deliver on it, if the organization doesn't deliver on it, well, you're still going to have a problem. If you're
Sure.
not truly differentiated, then you're still going to have a challenge when it comes to the client, whether or not they're going to select you. But there's some things that I think you need to pay attention to, just to make sure that you're in the game. And it's particularly true as firms. I call it leveling up, right? So you
Hmm.
started out maybe as a one-man band, and then you added on some helpers, and things are going really well. The next thing you know, you've got an honest to goodness company, right? Multiple people involved, and who you were competing with when you were 2 or 3 people is a lot different than who you're competing with when you're 25, which is a lot different than what you're competing with when you're 250 to 500 people. So when you think about that, sometimes our thinking as business owners or marketers doesn't evolve as fast as our competition does. So we're still sort of mentally competing with our old group of competitors, sometimes because we still have some of those same clients, but we haven't quite realized that, hey, we actually are competing with people that are operating at a higher level. We have to, one, up our game, and two, some of those things that we said that were very true about maybe our quality or what have you are no longer really different, because we're now competing at a different level.
At the beginning of the show, I mentioned, getting out of that hard hat and into the CEO part, and you need sales. Now,
Yeah.
branding isn't necessarily sales. It
No.
makes sales easier,
Correct. Yeah.
and it differentiates yourself from the competitors.
Yep.
It explains to people why they should hire you over somebody else. And
Yep.
then through the sales part, we are actually growing our business so you can become that CEO.
Absolutely.
Looking at my notes, you have worked with over 800 companies.
We have
All
worked
right.
with
That,
well over 100 companies. We've surveyed and done research on well over 800.
Gotcha. Okay. But
Just
that
wanted to
being said,
be
though,
clear.
yeah, that being said, though, we all have the same problems.
Yeah.
Is it, do you ever run out of ideas? Or is it just so yes, we have the same problems, but we're unique enough that you can kind of grab it and say, okay, this is what we're going to run with.
Yeah. I think that every business owner, every business leader is unique in the way that they do things and think about things when you get right down to it. And no, we don't run out of ideas because people are so fundamentally different and
Yeah.
unique, right?
Mhm.
And it's really the biggest challenge is just pulling out what is actually unique about someone. So no, I don't. We haven't yet hit the bottom of the well of ideas. So hopefully we never do.
No. And you can always take an idea. We have someone who's told me you take the football and you can change it a little bit. And
That's
so
right.
it's not, so it's different.
Right. The
It has to
value is
be.
in the
Yeah,
version. Yep.
absolutely. Well, Jerry, thank you for your time today.
Absolutely.
How would your information I'm going to put down in the show notes on how to contact you?
Appreciate that.
LinkedIn the best way or website?
LinkedIn, or they can email me directly. It's just jerry@toki.com. And you can put that in the show notes for folks, or come
Sure.
directly to the website. Either way.
Toki is Toky.
TOKY. So yeah, I'm happy to chat with anyone that is running into some challenges. Our goal is to ultimately just be helpful. So even if it's just a conversation and that ultimately is us pointing you in the right direction, we're happy to do that.
Awesome. Also in the show notes, you'll find a link to my calendar to get a free breakthrough session on your business so that you can grow it, get out of that hard hat CEO, then go get some branding from Jerry. And that's all I need to say. Jerry, thank you again. We'll see you guys again next week on another episode of Hard Hat CEO.
Chris, thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.